Yes, it has landed, and we can finally put the rumours to bed with today's launch of the Lumix GH5 II. We've been lucky enough to get hands on ahead of launch, so I can show you what this camera can actually do and give you our first impressions of this Micro Four Thirds filmmaking powerhouse. If you're new here, well, welcome to InGaff. We're professional video makers that make videos about making videos for people that want to make videos. And to help you make better videos, we make these videos about the things that make videos by using the things that make videos. And now that that's cleared up, here's the TLDR version. This may not be the GH6 everyone was expecting, but it is one hell of a filmmaking camera. From the off, it is worth addressing two things. Yes, Panasonic did let us borrow the GH5 II for this video, but they're not reviewing or dictating the contents of this video in any way whatsoever. Secondly, about the GH6. This camera has also been confirmed in the development pipeline with a release date of early next year. I'll be putting out a separate bit of content focused purely on that, so make sure you're subscribed to get that when it drops. So that begs the question, why the GH5 II and who is it even for? Well, as we dig into this video looking closer at its capabilities and showing you some test footage, it seems clear that this is a GH5 made ready for 2021. This is going to be aimed at new users, those content creators that want to jump into the Lumix ecosystem but yet haven't done so. So this is probably not a camera for existing GH5 users, but saying that, the capabilities of this Micro Four Thirds body are considerable and more than capable in its own right. Form factor wise, this camera is on face value almost identical to its GH5 predecessor, sharing that same easy to use, lightweight ergonomics that GH5 and Micro Four Thirds users in general know and love. Lifting the hood slightly, we do see some noticeable and welcome upgrades. Firstly, on the battery front, where the GH5 II is now utilising the same batteries as the full-frame Lumix S5. These BLK22s offer the camera 2,200 mAh of capacity. Interestingly, this isn't the only feature that the GH5 II shares with the Lumix S5, as that feature crossover is something of a significant theme with this new camera. Moving over to the card slots, and we now see two UHS-2 compliance slots that will welcome cards up to V90 speeds. This is significant as it hints at the bitrate and recording bit depth of this new camera, which sees all-eye codec recording at up to 400 megabits per second. And I suppose that's a nice segue to looking at some test footage and digging into those video specs a little further. As I said, on face value, not much has actually changed. We have the same 20.3 megapixel LiveMod sensor and Micro Four Thirds mount. But I did promise that this was a camera built for 2021, and it does live up to that billing. We have the 4K 60 as a headline figure, but we also have a slew of 4K and Cinema 4K modes, putting out an absolutely impeccable 10-bit 422 image. You can then marry that color and bit depth with the inclusion of Vlog L as standard from launch, so no paid firmware upgrades here. That combination is one that I've really loved playing with in the admittedly short time that we've had the GH5 II. The image rendered is so good and so versatile that it's actually hard to believe that it's so easy to achieve from a camera that is this small. And I guess that's the continued ethos of the GH5 that this camera shares. It's super simple to use without compromising on the aesthetic and the quality of the image rendered. Moving deeper into the video specs and features, there's a few other key updates that make this a great camera in its own right. First up is the much needed update to the autofocus system. In truth, it was one of the main areas that really let down the GH5 and possibly a lot of the Lumix cameras in general. The GH5 II borrows the snappy autofocus system seen in the Lumix S5, which from our brief testing is quick and pretty reliable. For sure, serious filmmakers always scoff at autofocus, but going back to that ease of use ethos, it's an incredibly important feature for content creators, and thankfully is an area here that's seen a huge improvement from the previous camera. The in-body image stabilization system is now right up there with some of the best I've ever used, with the GH5 II offering 6.5 stops of IBIS. It actually reminds me of the Fuji X-T4 system, which was mind-blowingly good. The part that really excites me here is that you actually get those 6.5 stops of IBIS from the body itself, regardless of what lens you are using. So me being me, I had to slap on a vintage Super Takumar 35mm lens to see how good it actually was with non-OEM glass. And I think it may well be my new favourite combination ever. Now, I'm not typically someone that jumps on specs alone, or even is ever asking for the bleeding edge of camera technology in the camera bodies that I shoot video with. And that's probably why I fell in love with the S1 and S1H. The quality of the 4K modes is what really excites me, and the GH5 II shares that asset. The quality of that 10-bit 4K 422 All-I codec from this camera that's so easy to use is what actually excites me about the GH5 II. I would happily pair this with any of our other more serious filmmaking cameras, and in fact, it'd probably sit perfectly alongside our EVA 1 and Lumix S1. And talking about more serious filmmaking settings, we have the final feature that interests us. The GH5 II now allows for simultaneous internal and external recording, allowing you to record that gorgeous 422 10-bit 4K footage out via the full-sized HDMI, whilst also capturing 420 10-bit internally as a redundancy at the same time. Of course, there's far more that this camera has to offer for different types of creators. It undoubtedly will be a more than capable photo companion. Also, it's the first Lumix camera to feature internal Wi-Fi live streaming, allowing you to go live directly from the camera without being tethered to a computer at all. But for us, these things aren't how we use these cameras. For us, we want cameras that, well, capture beautiful images for our video content, and undoubtedly the GH5 II does that incredibly well. For $14.99 at launch, this is a camera that will definitely tempt me back into the Micro Four Thirds filmmaking world, and offers so much for so little, it'll be a hard prospect to ignore. For some more information on the Lumix GH5 II, I'll of course put some links below, and whilst you're down there rummaging around, make sure you're subscribed to get our upcoming content on the GH6 and much, much more besides that from this weird filmmaking world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Make sure you don't talk like Sean Connery, because that would be stupid.